Hello, MCU fans! Today we're going to do some theorizing about the new Spider-Man movie, particularly that title, Brand New Day. So, lots to discuss. Let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget we have an April contest running all month long. Be subscribed, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out in case you're interested. All right, so the first big question is, why wasn't Tom Holland announced during Chairfest, right? They announced all these names, 27 names, and yet none of the Spider Bros got mentioned. None of them. So there are going to be future announcements for Doomsday cast, but it's interesting, none of them were mentioned. So that does raise the question, what will be the timeline order for these three movies? Release order is obviously Doomsday, Brand New Day, then Secret Wars. But when is Brand New Day happening in relation to Doomsday? Is it going to be before the movie, kind of like Ant-Man and the Wasp was before Infinity War? Is it going to maybe be during the movie? Or is it after the movie and thus right before Secret Wars? I mean, the real question is, when will Battle World be created? Because I'm certain by the end of Doomsday it will be created. When will it be created in relation to Spider-Man 4? Because that's going to tell us a lot about how multiversal the movie might be. So, all right, those are things just to kind of consider. But now, let's talk about this title, Brand New Day. Well, actually, before we talk about it, I want to talk about another interesting title from the comics, One More Day. So, there were 4 comics, a 4-issue run, that I think sets up the movie Brand New Day. So in this comic, Aunt May was basically at death's door. There was nothing they could do to save her. So Spider-Man was going to do whatever he could do to find a way to save her life. Well, in the second issue, he goes to none other than Doctor Strange. And he asks Doctor Strange, isn't there some type of spell you can cast? Isn't there something you can do? So keep that in mind. He was looking to Doctor Strange to cast a spell to save Aunt May, but Doctor Strange said, no, I can't help you. And then at the end of the issue, Peter actually meets this mysterious young girl. We will come back to her. All right, so then in the third issue of the 3-part series, Spider-Man has now found someone who will help. It's none other than Mephisto. That is never a good idea, right? But nonetheless, he turns to Mephisto and says, all right, enough games. You clearly don't want my soul, so what do you want? And as you can tell in the middle there, Mephisto says, I want your love. I want your marriage. What on earth, right? Well, anyway, Peter's like, nope, I'll only tell you where you can shove that offer. But Mary Jane's like, wait. Let's see what he has to say. What are the terms? So Mephisto says, let's just say this. Enjoy the world as it is for as long as you can, for you will only have it for one more day. Thus, the limited series, right? One more day. He says, you will not consciously remember this bargain, or this moment, or this life you lived to this point. But there will be a very small part of your soul that will remember, that will know what you lost. And my joy will be listening to that part of your soul screaming throughout eternity. Man, oh, that's just terrible, right? So what's he going to do? We get to issue number 4 of the 4-issue series, and they're trying to decide, do they basically give up any knowledge of ever being married, of their life together, to save Aunt May? So finally, Peter decides, okay, that's it. I'm going to do it. Do it. Do it, Mephisto. Just do it. So Mephisto then taunts him, saying, I'm a little surprised. You forgot to ask about me. And of course, he turns then into that little girl, and they realize, oh my gosh, the girl is the child the two of you will never have now that you've decided to save the life of your aunt. Oh man, he just twists the knife. So the little girl says, I would have been the best of both of you. Now that you've opted to save your aunt, I will never be. And then we hear the clock chiming, meaning it's midnight, and they will never remember each other again. So we see then these little memories of all their life throughout all the years in the comics. All of that is gone. And one last moment they have together, as MJ says, face it, Tiger, you hit the jackpot. Which if you know the comics, that's the very first thing she said when they met. Oh my word. Now, isn't it interesting how similar that is to the ending of No Way Home? Because remember, in No Way Home, the spell was going to be cast that would make everyone forget about Peter Parker, and that includes MJ. He says, yeah, you're going to forget who I am. And she's like, what? Forget who you are? So isn't that wild? Both One More Day and No Way Home had a similar ending in that Peter and MJ's relationship was wiped clean. That's crazy, right? All right, so where do the comics go from there? Well, no surprise, Brand New Day, right? Which, of course, is the title of our new movie, Brand New Day. So that means we can probably turn to the Brand New Day comic to maybe get some ideas of what to expect from the new Spider-Man movie. Now, I don't think we're going to get to see Aunt May back. Obviously, she came back because they gave up their marriage to bring her back. Although, who knows? Maybe Dr. Doom will bring Aunt May back from the dead. Maybe that's part of what we'll see on Battleworld. But I think it's really cool that Harry Osborn shows up in this series because we really, really need a Harry Osborn in the MCU. And then I will note that his girlfriend actually has a major role throughout the series. She becomes Menace, a villain, and she also becomes Queen Cat. So I don't know whether she's going to show up, but if we hear someone cast that sounds like she might fit that role, then maybe we should look more at this character and get some ideas of what might happen in the movie. Okay, so now we need to talk about some of the casting that we have heard in the movie, and that includes Sadie Sink. Can you believe it? From Stranger Things. Well, Spider-Man can't believe it, right? That is so awesome. I love her. She's going to be fantastic. But the question is, who will she be playing in the movie? So I'm going to throw out 6 ideas. One is that she might be playing a multiversal MJ, basically from one of the other universes. I mean, especially if Doomsday has already happened and we're on Battleworld. Kind of don't think that's going to happen, but still, that's a possibility. I would love it if she played Firestar of the infamous Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Maybe even Iceman could show up. Oh, that'd be so sweet. Possibly she'll play Jean Grey because we know the X-Men are coming in. And you could probably see a theme here, right? Red hair. Sadie Sink has amazing red hair. It's one of her major characteristics, so probably she will play a redhead. Okay, another famous redhead is Mayday Parker. That's the child of Peter and MJ. Of course, we saw Mephisto taunting them that they will never have that child, but if it's a multiversal movie and Toby shows up, maybe it's Toby's child. Maybe Mayday Parker is his child from his universe. That would be epic. So another possibility is Black Cat. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, not only does she not have red hair, but that's just not really the personality of Sadie Sink. But I had to mention her because I think we all really want to see Black Cat. And then another interesting possibility is Gwen Stacy, potentially coming from a different universe, or maybe even the 616 version. Now you may say, wait, she's got blonde hair, that doesn't make sense. But remember, interestingly enough, both of the actresses to play Gwen Stacy so far, Bryce Dallas Howard and Emma Stone, were natural redheads who dyed their hair. So Gwen Stacy is another possibility. But I'm going to throw out one that now we're going to look back at the comics for inspiration. And in the comics, Jackpot was a major character. Now, Jackpot, I think, is a play on the fact that, remember, MJ said, "You've hit the jackpot." So a lot of people thought she actually was MJ in the comics. She's not. She's a totally different character. But she does have superpowers and hangs out a lot with Spider-Man during that comic run. So, yeah, maybe that's a possibility. So really, that's 7 options for Sadie Sink. I really want to know your thoughts. Which of these do you think it'll be? Honestly, if I were to guess, it's either Jackpot or Mayday Parker. I think those are the 2 most likely. All right, now let's see if No Way Home can give us some clues on who the villain might be for Spider-Man 4. So you remember Feast, that's the organization for the homeless, and remember that's where Aunt May and Norman Osborn met up during No Way Home. So Feast actually did appear in the comics, and in fact was introduced during the Brand New Day run, and ended up being a front for the main villain from the comics to funnel his funds through. So I have a feeling Feast may become very important. So who is this villain I'm talking about? Well, believe it or not, they have appeared in a Marvel property, and that would be Moon Girl. Yes, Moon Girl Season 2 featured the villain I'm about to share, but first I want to mention this beautiful artwork. So we did a contest for a thumbnail for the Moon Girl video, and this thumbnail was done by Finn. So really nice job, Finn. Love this. But anyway, who was in Moon Girl Season 2 that I'm talking about? That would be Martin Lee. So Martin Lee was actually voiced by the very talented Bowen Yang. If you don't know who that is, you need to watch Saturday Night Live because that dude is so funny. But he voiced Martin Lee. So who is Martin Lee? Martin Lee is also known as Mr. Negative. So yeah, he was awesome in the Moon Girl episode. In fact, on the left, you can see him in the comics. And on the right, actually, that's him in the Sony PlayStation games. And then again, here's an image of him on the left during the Moon Girl episode with his sword, and on the right in the Sony games. So I think that would be awesome if Mr. Negative showed up. He was huge during the Brand New Day run. And again, he was involved with the Feast organization. So it all kind of fits together, right? But then the next question is, okay, who will be our guest hero in the movie? Because remember, we had Tony Stark / Iron Man in Homecoming, we had Nick Fury and Maria Hill in Far From Home, and of course Doctor Strange in No Way Home. Well, if you remember who the director is for Spider-Man 4, Destin Daniel Cretton, well, it would make perfect sense that he would bring in Shang-Chi, because remember, he also directed the Shang-Chi movie, and we have not seen him in forever, so I would love to see him again, and it would make a lot of sense for him to take on Mr. Negative. Plus, maybe they can finally answer what was up with those 10 rings. What was the signal? Remember, they were sending a beacon somewhere and we didn't know where. Maybe they can finally resolve that in this movie. That would be awesome. So, lots to look forward to in this movie. I want to throw it out to you now. When do you think the movie will take place in relation to Doomsday? What role do you think Sadie Sink is playing? Who will be our villain? And who will be our guest hero? I've thrown out a lot of ideas, but I want to hear what you think because I love to read and respond to everything. Either way, though, it is going to be an incredible, incredible movie. So don't forget, we have that contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. And we have the membership option in case you're interested in that. And I always love to mention the Discord. Here we are talking about Brand New Day and maybe the chance that we will get a Morbius cameo. Oh, we don't have to wait for Secret Wars. Put him in Spider-Man 4, right? So 2,100 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I'll leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, the ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.